Hello, this is Dave Keys with Solutions by Dave. We're going to look at a analysis and pricing model here for a mid-range real estate market, and we will choose by virtue of opportunity or circumstance Rochester, New York. And there's some metrics that I need to gather for a community to start determining competition and pricing models for SEO and marketing, etc. for a community like Rochester, anywhere. So looking at Rochester, we have Rochester that is a city in Monroe County. Rochester has 210,400 people, and Monroe County has 749,606 people. Median home prices. Rochester has a median home price of $61,500, while Monroe County has a home value of $126,000. Median price, there's a wide variety of prices both in and out of the city limits, and in a community like Rochester, the entire county has areas that have pockets of real estate that form natural local communities in real estate, and we won't cover all of those in this presentation, but we will look at that factor in real estate markets and pricing. So starting with this data here, and we'll move on into search volume, and here is search volume both for real estate and homes for sale in varying keyword phrase arrangements. And so you can see that we have quite a lot of search volume, especially for a market this size, which tells me that despite the number of municipalities that may be in or community names, that this is a viable market with plenty of search volume. Let's look at competition briefly, and for that I'm going to move over to SEMrush. So let's look first at Rochester, New York real estate, and we see pay-per-click competition at what seems by my experience to be a slightly lower price range for pay-per-click ads. It doesn't concern me too much because of a couple factors. First of all, the market itself, values tend to run lower than a lot of areas, especially municipality kind of areas like this, but it is, up around the Great Lakes, so it's a little more isolated than the East Coast, for example. And so we've got appreciable search both for real estate and homes for sale with its 2,400 searches and slightly higher cost per click for that particular phrase. Okay, I looked at Monroe County real estate and for New York because there's several Monroe counties, including Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and then overall just Monroe County real estate. Now you can make presumptions that a portion of Monroe County real estate searches are going to be for New York, but you can make the same presumption about other market areas and probably weighted more toward those areas because they have the specific search volume where New York does not. At least by this tool, it's substantially lower, so that we run to the bottom range of reporting of search volume. Now looking at homes for sale, Monroe County, NY, we see a total of 50, and then of course Monroe County homes for sale got 140. The same factor, the same metric applies here, that you can expect a certain portion to be about New York and the rest to not be about New York. Now these are valuable terms, and we look at these in terms of marketability, but what happens is as we move to lower tiers of search volume, which there's plenty, the impact on pricing becomes less and less because there's a baseline pricing that generally we don't do campaigns anything under $1,000 a month. It takes the same amount of work and metrics and analysis and what we do behind the scenes to be done, whether it's a large market or a small one. Larger markets can move up in price, but smaller ones hit a baseline. Okay, so So that's where we are in terms of pricing. Now we look at Rochester. This is where I was just kind of looking at the community. So I always, if I don't know a community, I try to get a good feel for everything that I can about the community based on the information available on the web. And then speaking to an agent in that community to get their perspective as well. But agents themselves need to become experts in their community, despite what anybody might say about the genre of community expert or not community expert, and what a real estate agent is or is not. One thing is certain that you must be differentiated in your market and different than everyone else, and have a better reason to do work with you than anyone else in your market, hands down. That must be found, discovered, created, manufactured. It must be in place for any level of success that's beyond chance. And certainly if you're looking at SEO, then you've left the realm of leaving things to chance. And we don't want that to happen within the scope of search engine optimization or organic search marketing either. Your channels should all bring prospects into a sales funnel which focuses on the main product of your business. And that main product of your business is not houses and homes. The main product of your business is watching this video. And that is you. Because a client must in every case choose you, or at least choose your referred resource in order for your business to make money. If they choose someone else, you make nothing. So you are the product. All right. Looking at, not real estate SEO, but homes for sale Rochester NY, because that was both the highest search volume and it also has the highest value in terms of that community, because we know that buyers look for homes for sale while all kinds of people, including agents, look at real estate. All right. Let's get from the Moz keyword difficulty tool a score, if we may. We may not. We'll get another score. Fine. One more refresh here to see if we get a score, and that's not our primary objective, but I would like their score. Yeah, 42 is about what I would have expected. Now let's look at some metrics. I always look at Moz because Moz is an organization that has put a lot of effort and time, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of man hours into very good statistical analysis. The only thing you could get better is if Google would themselves divulge their statistical analysis of their algorithm and the components and core metrics of their algorithm, which they are not going to do. They don't want it tampered with any more than it already is. People like me manipulate anything possible to bring into the search engine to make a client's website perform better in those search results, and they prefer less, while businesses and people like me prefer more result based on input. And you can look at my other video that is on my website about input into how we present information to the search engine to better the results of our clients. All right, looking at the Moz Metrics, they have two scores, page authority and domain authority. They have a number of others, but we're looking at these for general analysis. And domain authority is probably a close correlation to what Google calls PageRank, which they no longer publicize. The last PageRank update was December of 2013, and they have publicly stated they're not updating it anymore. They said that once before, then did update it, but it was just engineers correlated that with some other stuff they were doing and decided to go ahead and update it. Now, PageRank is still happening. It's still a metric, but it's in correlation with other metrics like the Panda algorithm, which is also discussed on my website and my video channel. Now, the domain authority is a representation of how much a website is able to perform in search results based on how much it's trusted, how much it's cited, and how much it is linked to. So it's a measure of authority of a website that Google would be more or less likely to choose that website in a set of search results. Scales from 0 to 100, well, 1 to 100. So we see the usual suspects in real estate performing for homes for sale Rochester NY, starting with Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, and Homes.com. They generally rank 1 through 4 in almost every city level and that type search for real estate and homes for sale, because they have very high domain authority and they have very high relevance to the topic. What I look for in order for judging competition is who is the local person that shows up first, who is the local agency and website that shows up first, and what are their metrics that must be overcome. Now you see that we've got homesteadnet.com and nothnagel.com. Both of these sites are relatively local. Nothnagel for sure is local. And then other websites. Now here's a question that I'll address to get an answer as to what's going on here. That you would think if domain authority was really a measurement of how websites are ranked by Google, then the numbers should show up here in descending order, which they obviously don't. There are other factors. They are scope and relevance. Scope of the website. How many things does the website purvey? How much content? How many pages, like Craigslist? And then what are the topics of the website? Craigslist sells everything from real estate to relationships of various dubious and not so dubious nature. Everything in between. Mattresses, Apple computers, cameras, you name it. Living room furniture. So there's a very broad context of what the website's about. Yet they have a domain authority of 91, and they have a well-formed concentration of information about real estate. Hence, they show up in a lot of real estate searches, but not that high because their relevance is not as clear, while other websites are completely and solely about the real estate topic throughout. Now we have Remax with a domain authority of 81, yet they're at the bottom of the list here. This is the other side of the coin of scope, that you've got a local agency here and here with domain authorities in the 40s, and then you have a national branded website here with a domain authority of 81. Well, they are trying to be national and compete with Zillow and Trulia and Realtor, who have domain authority scores in the 90s. And even Homes.com, which is only 81, and Remax, which is 81. So then we have other factors that play into that, but you're looking at basically a relevance, or I'm sorry, a scope factor, that Remax is covering every city and every town, every market that Zillow is, with a far less percentage of the score. They may not be doing their SEO as well as Zillow either, but they may not be optimized as well as Zillow. And so those factors play a role in where they show up in search results. They are weaker in the context of this market for Rochester. Okay, so now we can see what it takes to punch through competition and place a website here on page 1, that we need to meet the metrics of our competitors and exceed them by enough to be placed ahead of them. And the domain authority helps us understand the initial phase of the metrics that we need to compete with. There's other factors too. How the page shows up in the context of the overall website, what the website is about compared to these websites. So there's other factors. These must be outperformed. Whatever they're doing, I must do better on behalf of a client to get my client's website ahead of these. Now, the search volume plays an important role here, because we start to look at return on investment, and we start to look at the ability of this whole SEO thing to work on both sides, and if it makes sense for either party. Because both the client and myself have to make a profit at this for it to be viable for business, or we simply don't have a reason to move forward. That's where search volume comes in, and the price of the median price and the price of the market specifically. We may have something called Hampton Heights, which I have no idea, but if we had a Hampton Heights where it's sought after, there's search volume for that, and the homes have a median price of $2.8 million, that changes the metrics of this game, or of this approach to marketing. So we get into this and we look at the fact that we've got 2,400 searches plus 1,000 so for homes and real estate. So we got 3,400 searches a month for varying reasons looking at real estate. Typically, there are studies by Cornell University and lots of other folks who have done studies. They all say they're the most accurate. But you got #1 position picking up a certain amount of clicks. Now, people know what ads are, and they know how to avoid them, and they generally do, to the tune of, depending on who you listen to their argument, anywhere from 1.5% of people click those ads to 10%. 1.5% is probably a little bit pessimistic. That data's from 2006. 10% is probably over-optimistic by research that has a reason to support the pay-per-click paradigm of marketing. All right. However, we are looking right now at organic marketing, organic results, which do pick up a large percentage. #1 result picks up anywhere from 30 to 45% of clicks. So Zillow gets a lot of the traffic. Then you run down to about 15, and then 10 and 10, and some number between 5 and 10, depending on what's happening on page 1. Some estimates even put it down like 3% for this position here. Okay. However, 3% of 3,000 is still 90 searches, 90 hits on a website, just by virtue of being there #5. Now, the reality in real estate is that people go to the syndicate sites like Zillow and Trulia and Realtor. They have a certain syndication experience. They have no relationship with an agent. So if I pick Zillow, for example, and I start looking at homes for sale in Rochester, New York on the Zillow website, then I'm going to have a certain experience. I'll say, well, look at 3 houses here. Let's look at the mid-range price, and it looks okay. I maybe would like that one better. 3-bed, but this has 4-bed. Well, let's look at the house, okay? So I'll just use some very uninformed metrics of any consumer. And so now I'm looking at the metrics behind this house. 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet. So it's kind of smallish, but it's got the 4 bedrooms. And suppose I've looked at some homes and I decide maybe I want to know more that I can get from the pictures and the data. Maybe I'm just interested in a question about the house. Does it have a septic tank? You know, does it have anything new, any remodels, anything I should know about? I'm just trying to find out, right? This looks a little old. I might start to get a little concerned. You know, when's the last time the roof was repaired on that house? All right, so eventually I may call an agent. So here's my choice of agents. And what's happening here in my mind right now is I'm looking at green stars and faces. And I don't care that Benjamin Hart is the listing agent. So he's made sure that he has invested sufficient amounts of money here to be put at the top as the listing agent. Otherwise, he would be simply down here at the bottom somewhere as the listing agent. And these other agents would show up for me to just see and pick from higher up in the above the fold area. So now what am I left with? I can look at Cindy, Colleen, and Mark, and depending on a whole lot of quick subconscious, psychological, subtle factors, I'm going to pick an agent or maybe none. Maybe this is enough to stop me. I don't really know any of these people. I don't have a reason to talk to them. Cindy, wow, she is both pretty and has had 18 recent sales, but Mark has had 40. That's a lot of. Now, maybe that influences, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'd rather talk to the blonde woman, but eventually I'm going to contact an agent and they're going to get a phone call from me or maybe an email. In either case, I'm going to be a Zillow lead. So the experienced agent will have some level of defense because I'm coming in saying, I'd like to make an offer on this house. And Zillow says it's worth $61,000, so let's just put in an offer at $61,000. Or maybe I want to try to lowball it, and why don't I go for $56,000? And maybe that house has 5 offers on it now. Maybe it has 1. Maybe it's an escrow. Maybe it has any number of things going on. Maybe it needs a title search. Maybe there's something dubious. There's all kinds of reasons that I cannot buy this house. But I'm not aware of that yet. The agent may be. And so they get the phone call and I start talking about what I want with this home. And the agent is trying to figure out if I'm worth their time. This is not a warm, fuzzy, happy meeting yet. And it may not be. Because once I find out that I can't buy this house, or maybe I go back and look at this picture and it's like, oh, okay. Oh, I just was curious about the last time the roof was put on. That's really all I wanted. And the agent may be asking for, you know, what are you looking for? What's your budget like? And no matter what happens, I'm feeling invaded already, even though I made the call. And I go away, and I suspect that a lot of this happens because of the metrics that I see on the number 5 position in a lot of markets where I bring people to. So I'm done with that experience and I go back to the search engine, right? And maybe I'll look for the same thing all over again. This time at some point I recognize what these websites are because they work the same way. They show me a lot of houses I can look at and then some agents that are arbitrarily placed on their website based on things I'm not sure about but turns out to be money. And I'll come back and I'll move to a place where there is local representation by a local agency. Now what happens here is critical. This position right here, number 5, I've seen get as much as 25% of clicks. 25%. So we've got people coming back again and again, just like Realtor Association Realtors says. They come back to the internet a large number of times, 10, 11, 12, 15, 20, and look at things again and again. You want to be here because a lot of people decide that they've got to look at who are the folks they can work with locally to get a home in Rochester, New York. Now the numbers start to become a lot more important because it's not 90 people, it's 25% of 3,000 people, okay? So now we got 750 people potentially visiting the website that's in position 5. Even 500, 300, those turn into numbers that now you have to be able to convert. If you're anything about marketing online, you'll get conversion. You can't be bad enough. Well, you can, but you can do pretty poorly in everything else, and the numbers alone will drive business into your door. Okay, that's a factor we look at, and then we look at the value of the homes. And we've got anything from 125 to 60,000 and a little more. So let's take a flat number for math. Okay, like 100,000. And we say that there are 300 people, maybe 500, maybe 750, but we'll take a low number like 300 and say we got 300 people, of which I know I can convert 1%. So 3 people are going to buy a house at $100,000. Worst case scenario, right? And so if you're getting 3 points out of a sale, that's $9,000. If you spend $2,000 on SEO, but you're getting $9,000 because you're visible, then obviously that makes sense to keep pursuing that channel and marketing, because dollars in reach people that you can't reach otherwise because they're looking online, and they find you when you're on page one as high as possible. So there's the essence of my evaluation of the market. Now, the work I have to do is frankly not as favorable in this market as some markets, because I know I have to overcome that 40. A lot of times I have to overcome numbers like 30, even 25. For the domain authority, where we had these guys in the 40s, I have to overcome that. That takes a lot more force. Therefore, to make sense in marketing, I have to price my product around the $2,000 a month range to get a return here into page one visibility in this market. Now, there are strategies that we can look at. Smaller markets, every market that we look at, we have to run through these same metrics and say, is there viable search? Is there value? Is there an ability to hit a position in search results where you will have traffic enough that you can convert a percentage of that traffic into buyers? So that's the basis of our analysis and pricing right there. It's Dave Keys with Solutions by Dave, signing off.